Hi guys, this is Arnav from the DAS marketing team. If this is your first time watching one of our videos, we help marketers increase their conversion rate by 2 to 3x using conversational landing pages. In this video series, we take a different industry each week when we find a landing page from that industry, and we, on the video, show you how we transform that landing page into a conversational landing page that converts at those higher rates. This week, we're taking a look at the LASIK eye surgery industry. It's actually pretty big from a marketing standpoint. I didn't know this until I started doing research about it. They get a search volume of about 90,500 per month, which is quite a bit. And the cost per click is $20.13. That means these four companies over here, which are running ads, are probably dropping tens of thousands of dollars to get leads from Google. So with that, I actually went ahead and clicked on the third link and found this landing page. On the other side, it's a pretty basic landing page. It's got a form. It's got large blocks of text. It looks like a traditional landing page. It looks like what you'd expect from a landing page. And in many ways, that's a problem. People don't like reading text that's this long. They skim over it. They read maybe 20% of it at max. People don't like seeing forms. I've found working in CRO that a lot of the time people they click on a Google ad, they open up a landing page, they see a form, and they drop. Even if they come back later to that same landing page and fill out the form and actually submit it, that's 2 clicks which the company is paying for. So that's one wasted click. So these are the sorts of problems we are going to try to fix when we build our conversational landing page. So with that, I'm going to switch to the builder and start creating. This is the first gambit. A gambit is basically the first back and forth that the bot has with the user. So when a prospect lands on the page, when a prospect clicks on the Google ad and lands on the page, this is the first thing that they see. So welcome to the LASIK Vision Institute. The first message, I always like to keep it, I always like to make it a welcome message that includes the logo. I went ahead and cropped their logo out to add it in over here. And the reason I like to do this is because nothing builds legitimacy like having branding. When you land on a landing page, the first thing you always see is the logo in the top. And if I land on a page which doesn't have a logo, which doesn't have that branding on it, it just screams spam to me, and I close out immediately. So with that established, this first message essentially just establishes the legitimacy of the page. So with that, in the second message, what I like to do is I like to try to distill the problem or the value that the company is offering. And a good way to figure that out is to look at the heading. Over here, they have an animation. Tired of waking up every morning with a blur? It's time to correct your vision problems and make your mornings clearer. So that is a distillation of the problem that LASIK Vision Institute is solving into a couple of lines, and that's what I want to capture in the next message. The other thing I like to look at is the actual ad copy. Over here, they are mentioning a 20% discount, so I definitely want to include that over here. So I'm going to go ahead and say tired of waking up with blurry vision. As someone who has glasses, I can relate to this. So if someone was looking for LASIK eye surgery, they definitely see this, find it relatable, and they might continue with the conversation. So it's really speaking to the problem that the people that the prospects are facing. We are offering a 20% discount to will give you will give you a 20% discount if you schedule an appointment with us today. And then what I like to do is I like to make the key terms within these messages bold. Actually, I'm going to make it a free consultation because people love free stuff. So free consultation with us today. Let's make free consultation bold and blurry vision is bold. And the reason I like to make things bold like this is because people have very short attention spans, and they even if you give them just a few messages to read, they are going to scan. That's the first thing they're going to do when they get to the page, and we don't want them to miss out the key details. So consultation, and I always like to have I have a question branch. We'll get back to this later. So a few best practices to keep in mind when you're phrasing your own hooks are keep the messages short, keep them to the point, capture the value proposition. Try to use an image, especially of the logo, to build the brand. And also make it as easy as possible for the prospects to continue the conversation. So over here you'll notice that I've added a couple of buttons, and the reason that I have done this is because if I ask for something like name, it would require several taps to actually complete the answer and hit send and continue the conversation. But when it's a button, it's a single tap, and that makes it a lot easier for the conversation to progress. And once the conversation progresses, prospects get more invested into the conversation, and they're more likely to convert. You're essentially taking them to conversion as quickly as possible. The next thing that I want to do is I want to actually capture this lead. And we're going to do that through the chat again. So I just want to take a look at the form. They ask for name, they ask for contact info, they ask for the details relating to the actual LASIK operation. And I'm actually going to, there's a couple of things to keep in mind when you're asking for this kind of stuff. First, when a user gives you input, you want to acknowledge that you've got it. This is a conversation. It's not a form. Forms are impersonal. The company gives it to you. You fill it out on your own. This is a conversation. So if a user says, schedule an appointment, you want to say, great. You want to acknowledge the fact that you got that. And you want to prime them for what comes next. So I will need a few details to get you set up. First, the easy one. And let's say, what is your name? It's your full name. I'm going to consolidate. One of the things I don't like about the traditional landing page in this case is that they have too many fields in their forms, and that still transfers over here. Asking for lead information through a chat is definitely more engaging than a form like this, but the same principle of having more fields causing a conversion rate to drop actually transfers over. So if you can reduce it to as few steps as possible in the actual conversation, it will help your conversion rate in the long run. So what is your full name? We need custom text, and I'm going to put full name verification on. This is just going to make sure that they don't just give you a last name or a snippet or something like that. And if they do, it's going to ask them to revise their answer and give you a full name. Another thing you need to keep in mind when you're asking for questions through a conversation is the ordering of the questions. Prospects aren't able to see all the fields at once like they can over here. So you really have to pay attention to how you order the questions. One of our customers found out that if you ask for email and phone number, if you ask for contact details first, people think it's a very salesy pitch, and they're less willing to give you their information, and they're less willing to convert into an actual lead. So we like to push that all the way to the bottom and ask for the stuff that's important to the prospect first. So in this case, we ask for the stuff relating to the LASIK eye surgery first. That gives them the sense that they're already speaking to an expert and they're already in the pre-op assessment. And then the email or the phone number at the end is just incidental. So the first question is, do you have contact lenses? We're going to acknowledge the previous input. Like I mentioned earlier, nice to meet you. You want to speak our full name. So essentially, I'm going to say nice to meet you. We just got their name, contact lenses. And again, this is just a simple button input. Do you wear contact lenses? And it's a simple yes, no. Contact lenses. And it's bold again. We're making all of the key terms bold for people who are skimming. It's a simple yes, no question. And I'm going to add icons, obviously. The reason I add icons, I did this in the previous gambit as well, in the hook as well. And the reason I like to do this is because, again, it's just a visual cue. Human beings are visual creatures. And if you make it as easy as possible for a human being to understand, your prospect to understand what's being asked of them, they're more likely and they're more quickly going to progress in the conversation and convert into an actual lead. So the contact lens question is done. Next, I am going to ask them for, I think it was the city they're in. These guys have dozens of cities as an option. And I'm not going to actually go through and add all of those cities. because that would take a lot of time and this video would be way too long. Which city do you live in? And then I'm going to just give them a little bit of information as to why I'm asking for that. I need to know which LASIK Vision Institute is closest for you. And I'm just going to add an auto suggestion option over here. So I'll show you what that means. So if I click on auto suggest, I'm just going to add a few sample Los Angeles. These are a few of the terms which I saw in their dropdown, so I'm just going to add them over here. San Diego, San Francisco. I can show you what this actually looks like in practice. So if I hit save, deploy, and actually open up, I'm going to skip ahead in the conversation to that question. So it says, got it, which city do you live in? And it's going to pop up this list. And as I type over here, it's going to actually filter down the options. So that's what the auto suggestion input UI means. So contact lenses, city. Now I think we are going to go straight to city, contact lenses, preferred appointment date, preferred appointment time. All right. I think LASIK Vision Institute. And I'm just gonna again acknowledging their input. I'm going to say LASIK Vision Institute. That city is closest to you. Is closest for you. When do you want to come in? So this is the last last question. Want to come in for your free consultation? And we're going to add a calendar and time input. This allows you to capture a date and a time in one single question. I can show you what that looks like. So let's hit deploy and skip ahead to question 5. Let it load. I found that these pages, actually all pages tend to load a little more slowly when I am recording the screen. So this is what the calendar and time input looks like. So let's say 22nd March at 11:30 a.m. and hit send. So that's what it would look like in practice. Now that we've gotten all the details that we need about their actual lead, what we can do is we can ask them for their contact information, and it's incidental. I'm just going to ask for their phone number. There's no sense in asking for both, I feel. I'm going to say great or awesome. We have scheduled your consultation. And I might move that into a new message bubble. Keep everything as bite-sized as possible. Again, people hate reading. We have scheduled your consultation. Can you give us your phone number below in case we want to get in touch? And we can make this input mobile 10 digits. And I'm going to add the pointing emoji below. Just to make it as explicit as possible, make it as visual as possible. Phone number below. Hit save. And that's the end of the lead generation flow. So now what we can do is we can close out the conversation. And we can move on to the other branch. So let's connect this over here. Say thank you for your patience. You are on your way to better vision already. You are on your way to better vision already. We look forward to seeing you soon. And that's the end of the conversation. We can end it over there. Just these delays. These delays are, again, they are essentially, they make the conversation feel more natural, because when you're talking to an actual human being, there's a few seconds where they're typing each message, and they also give the user some time to read a message. So for example, over here, if I sent this third message a little too early, which I'm doing right now, with the 1 second delay, I've changed it to 2, then the prospect wouldn't have any time to read the previous 2 messages, which is why I like to increase the delay by a little bit. So now we can actually move on to the questions branch. The reason we like to add this questions branch is because a lot of the prospects who land on your landing page have a few uncertainties, and those uncertainties can generally fall into a set of maybe 4 or 5 FAQs, essentially. I'd be happy to answer your questions. And if you can answer those right off the bat within the chat, that's another conversion that you're getting, which would have otherwise been lost. So the questions I'm going to ask over here, the way I like to figure this out if I'm looking at a landing page is looking at the top bar, or if they have an FAQ page, looking at the FAQ page. If you are an actual business doing this, you probably have a good sense of what these questions are, because they're so frequently asked. Over here, I can see they have why LASIK, affordability, and am I a candidate? So this is why, cost, and eligibility. So I'm going to add those as buttons. The reason I like to add buttons and not just a plain text is because, again, these are the generic queries which a lot of people ask, and they usually account for anywhere between 40 to 70% of all the queries that come in. And if you can answer them as quickly as possible just through a tap, that would be as frictionless as possible, and it would help you get more conversions. Something else, and go ahead and start adding the actual answers in. So why LASIK? I'm just going to show you how I go about it once. I've actually prepared the FAQs in another document because I've looked at this. So I usually click on the page, see what it says. This first paragraph is a pretty good answer. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in and split it up into a couple of messages. So why LASIK? Split it up into 3 messages, make it as bite-sized as possible. That increases the chance of conversion. To remove this last message because it's kind of pointless. If that sounds like something, now we want to push them into the lead generation flow. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, schedule a free consultation. And free, caps, and bold. Yep, there we go. And let's make this a button option. A consultation. And I have another question. And let's remember to add the icons. We have calendar and we have the info option. And that's the why LASIK option. So that's how I would go about figuring out what the FAQs are if someone gave me a landing page to convert. In this case, I've actually gone ahead and I've already prepared those FAQs in another doc. You can see it up here, but I'm just going to prepare the flow for this. Let's connect these. And then we can go ahead and populate them with the actual answers that I prepared beforehand. So this is the why LASIK copy. Let's go ahead and delete the messages that are already there. And go back here. The second one, I believe, is cost. Yep, so 1,400 per eye. And cost. Everything bold, all the key terms bold. Consultation, free. We have the second question. Now we can go on to the third question. Delete everything that's in here and populate. What's the last question? Eligibility. Eligibility. Am I a candidate? So they had this general set of queries of eligibility criteria, which they had listed on their site, and that's what I've pulled off and to create the answer to this question. But again, they also say that the only way of being absolutely certain is to speak to an actual LASIK doctor, so we can use that as a prompt to push people into the lead generation flow. So let's go ahead and do that. That's the last one. Move this up. Free consultation. And that should be that. Eligibility. And now we have one more, which is the actual, the other option. I'm going to take the cost one. It says the fewest messages to delete. And let's go ahead and add this stuff in. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. In fact, I'd love to schedule you in for a free consultation. One of our doctors who will answer all the questions. I'll answer all your questions. Hit save. Make the last connections of the gambits. Change the name to other because this isn't cost. And I'm going to really quickly scroll down. I've realized that I forgot this earlier. I'm going to add some icons. So something else is going to be this customer support rep. How much does it cost is going to be, I know there is a euro and a dollar sign somewhere here. We just need, there we go. We just need to look for it. Am I a candidate? I know exactly which icon to use for this one. Clipboard with a check mark on it. And for this one, let's use, where is it gone? I just like the piece of paper with some text on it. It looks kind of like these ones. Looks kind of like the Google Doc. There we go. Looks kind of like the Google Doc symbol. Hit save. We're all done. There's one more thing I need to do actually, which is add branding, add the colors of the actual company to the chatbot. If I go to the chatbot right now, this blue doesn't really match the colors of the brand, so I'm going to add those in. I'm one of those people who likes to make the bot messages and the user messages the same color. Hit save, and I like to make the background color white because it just makes, if you're on desktop, it makes the chat area feel like it's just an extension of the rest of it. Let's hit deploy, go to configure, change this to LASIK vision, save, save, deploy, and let's take a look at our end result. I'm going to do a quick side by side to give you guys a sense of what this actually looks like. Okay, so on the left, we have the low converting traditional landing page. It's covered in text. It's got a long, ugly looking form and probably has a conversion rate below 5%, which means tens of thousands of dollars in wasted ad spend. The one on the right is much more minimalist. It has very few messages at a time. You generate your lead through an interactive conversation. It's back and forth. There's constant visual stimulation on the screen as new message bubbles pop up. And it's just generally a more engaging experience. You feel like you're talking to someone. And the end result of going from the left to the right, the traditional landing page to the conversational landing page, is that your conversion rate goes up 2 to 3x. That means if you're getting a 5% conversion on the old landing page, you're getting a 15% or a 10% conversion on the new landing page. And that essentially means that for the same amount of money, that you're spending on Google, you're getting twice or thrice the number of leads. And if you're spending a lot of money, that's a huge cost saving for you. That's pretty much it for today. If you guys have a landing page you want us to do this, make a similar video for, or you want us to convert it for you, drop a link. Get us the link somehow. If you're looking at this on our blog, just generate the lead with the bot in the bottom right of the blog. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or on YouTube, drop a link in the comments. Thanks.